All right, good morning and welcome to the Marine Corps Theater. I know we'll have people that'll be rolling in here throughout. We just concluded the keynote this morning with Assistant Commandant General Smith. But the first presentation in the Marine Corps Theater for West 23 is entitled The Expeditionary Communicator. Expeditionary Communications Proof of Concept course. And today we have Mr. Paul Stokes, who is a Deputy Operations Officer at the Marine Corps Electronics School, and Major Toby Pope, in the words of his boss, is all things extraordinaire, but a Marine communicator. And again, they're going to talk about the rapid pace of technology and advancement and the demands of great power competition that require, trained enlisted leaders, while emerging doctrine indicates formations at the edge of the battle space. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Paul to get started, and Toby will be chiming in. So thank you and welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Paul Stokes. Again, as you just mentioned, I'm the Deputy Operations Officer at the Marine Corps Communication Electronics School. And today we're here to talk to you about the Expeditionary Communicator. You see on the screen, the Expeditionary Communications actually is, that's been around for many years. But what happened was, for those who are familiar with this, how the Marine Corps has changed over about the last, I'd say last 10 years. We had Expeditionary Force 21. We had Future Force 2020. We have now Force Design 2030. In all particular situations, in all events, the Marine Corps is trying to go to a smaller, lighter environment to where it was smaller formations. So, for example, stuff that at one time was battalions, we're talking about companies, or we're talking about smaller formations than that. So, based upon that, we developed the Expeditionary Communicator concept. You see up on the screen. The Expeditionary Communicator, the idea is to try to develop a leader who is tactically and technically proficient, somebody who can operate in a whole variety of environments, so you can see up on that screen. But in order to do this, you need a guy, as you can see, you just want to walk through that, you need somebody who can do lots of things. He needs to be able to think on his own. He needs to be physically fit. He needs to needs to be innovative. And those are all skills that have to take time to develop. Now, the question I ask, do those Marines exist? And those Marines actually do exist. It's just the point is we have to find them and recruit them. As you can see up there, we're talking about somebody who can operate in any kind of domain. We're talking about air, sea, land. That's a change for some folks, because traditionally, especially in the last 20 years or so, in some of the AORs we're working out of FOBs. We've been working out of fixed bases where people are just used to falling on top, in some cases, the same architecture they put in when they were Lance Corporals. It actually happened. People coming in, putting in networks around, like I said, around in 2007, falling atop the same network 10, 15 years later, and then just building upon that. Well, we're talking about somebody who can go into position, operate independently with an austere conditions. Austere, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but somebody can actually think on his own. Also, you can see up there, we're talking about somebody who can also integrate a variety of networks. That's one of the challenges we have today, trying to be able to, how can we operate in a voice environment, a data environment, a video environment. So in order to do those types of things, we need somebody who can think on his own, somebody also access to particular information. And like you see on the bottom of the screen, the network has to support this particular Marine. Now, when we're talking about networks, we're talking about a whole variety of networks, whether it be DOD, whether that Marine Corps, whether it be coalition, allied units, something where I can tie in and those particular skills. So that's quite a tall order. In order to do this, in order to support this tall order, what we did some mission analysis, at the Marine Corps Communication Electronics School, based upon guidance we received from IC4. Because if you're not familiar, IC4, the IC4 at Headquarters Marine Corps, we had Brigadier General Maylock, which she was the former director of IC4. What she did, she actually asked to look at how we develop a communicator of the future. After she left, we actually kind of built more on that with General Matos, and now we are today. Again, the premise, like I said, the premise for an Expeditionary Communicator, fundamentally, we want somebody who's tactically and technically proficient and operate in a variety of environments. We need somebody who can operate in data, somebody who can work transmissions, somebody who can operate and just in networks. Now, in the Marine Corps, if you're not familiar with this, what happened approximately 10 years ago, we implemented something called forced modernization. But forced modernization is the Marine Corps actually went to multiple tracks. We went to a transmission track, a data track, and a network track. We also had a cybersecurity track. The cybersecurity track moved over to the 1700 OC field, but the other three tracks we developed talked about a major restructuring in the Marine Corps, Marine Corps communications. Well, those three tracks have served us very well in a variety of environments. But if we're talking about in an expeditionary environment, you really don't have the luxury of having 3 or 4 guys all doing the same thing. You may have, or I should say, working together to form a team. You may have to have 2 guys, maybe 1 guy. So we're talking about ultimately those variety of skills. Like you see up on the screen, we're talking about trying to develop Marines who can operate in any environment at the tactical edge, and like I said, and support that particular commander. And it could be, and also it could be a building block approach. A Marine who could fall on top of a site, operate for a period of time, somebody fall on top as an advanced party, or go to a particular island or go to a particular AOR, operate for a short period of time, then pull right back out. And we're not just talking about the Pacific. We're not just talking about the threats there. We're also talking about this is the type of Marine who can operate in the Middle East, operate in Africa, operate maybe in other parts in Europe. We're talking about, because you look what's happening right now, for example, in Ukraine and in other particular spots, small teams, people can operate in a lot of environments. That's what we're looking for. So again, based upon this is, in order to meet this particular challenge, we need to create a course to train a Marine to develop that. So, now again, but that course is based upon the premise you're seeing up here. We're talking about developing, what we did is we developed the course. What we did is go back to with the MARSOC model. The MARSOC has a special operations communicator. What we did, we took that basic POI, program of instruction, and we developed the course to basically tailor it more to particular Marines. Now, the challenge that we have, at least in our particular environment, is in the Marine Corps, we don't have a lot of the same systems you might have in the SOC community. So fundamentally, we designed a course using the systems we have now, our own program of records, and also we have help from MCTISA, a few other organizations where we're able to bring some systems in to test out for a particular course. So the main premise you're seeing up there is we designed a course based on a 2-man team. That 2-man team can operate in a variety of environments. Like you're seeing up there on the screen, we're talking about somebody who can, they're technical tech savvy, they can find things. So one challenge we've had when we first developed this was there are individuals saying, well, you're never going to put all this stuff in a Marine's head. Well, to some extent that is true, but a key thing is to find the information. If you can find that information, if you build a smart book, would that either be a hard copy book or a laptop or a device which has that information, that can help you. So for example, if you go to a site, you walk into a building, you have to hook, let's say, some sort of telephone system. You see an Ericsson switch that you've never seen an Ericsson switch before. But if you're able to find that information, you can help develop that interface. That's what we're talking about, trying to develop Marines doing that. So in this particular course, by developing the 2-man team, they actually worked together from start to finish. The 2 Marines paired up, and they built smart books to develop that type of knowledge. You can see up there, we want somebody to operate in a whole variety of environments, because that's, again, if you may not be aware of this, but the Marine Corps is restructuring. They're going to smaller teams. But if you have, let's say, a company landing team that's actually flying out of 4 MV-22s, you're only going to have spot for maybe 4 communicators. That's why I went to 2-man teams. Now, again, this is the environment we're talking about operating in. You can picture this: land, sea, air, and then the core guns in space. That core and cyber, core guy doing that training. Now the skills you're seeing up there on the left, again, they have to be able to plan the network. They have to be able to install the network. Then you have to secure the network. They have to be able to operate, maneuver the network. And like I said, maintain the network and access the network. Now we talk about maneuver the network. Systems go down. How do I find alternative means? For example, if I'm on site, we're operating. Let's say you're supporting a company assault. All of a sudden, your satellite antenna you get incoming, your satellite antenna is destroyed. Or let's say you just get off the MB-22, you trip and fall and destroy your antenna, which does happen. We want somebody who can actually think about it and find an alternative means to develop an alternative antenna and work that out. We want somebody who can work in, like I said, he's thinking. He's not going to sit there and say, holy Moses, my system's down. We want some operating environment that can do those types of things. Well, those skills you're seeing up on the screen, what we did, based upon those skills, we developed, at least at MCSS, along with working with Training Command and the FMF, we developed what are called Training and Readiness Standards. In the Marine Corps, Training and Readiness Standards, or TNR standards, those we use to develop our communications training for training throughout the Marine Corps. Well, for TNR standards, we developed TNR standards to support this particular Marine. Based upon those TNR standards, we were able to develop a particular course. And this has been, again, this is still a work in progress. So we developed the baseline standards. We've trained the first group of Marines. Now we have to see how well that works. Again, but we talk about the environment those TNR standards support. What you're seeing here is a notional infantry battalion of the future. A notional infantry, if you can see, roughly you see up on the screen, you roughly have five nodes, and those nodes would be supported in this particular model by 3 expeditionary communicators apiece. What is happening, for those who don't understand it, the Marine Corps is restructuring the infantry battalions. What they're basically doing is they're putting in more trigger pullers and intel feed, and in order to do that, the battalion only could be so big. What they're doing is they're making this communication section smaller. It's downsizing. In this particular model, the communication platoon is going down from 78 Marines to 66. It may get smaller as future events go down, as future testing goes. That's why in this particular model, we developed we identified a need for 15 expeditionary communicators operating those particular nodes. And what they can do, operate independently and also work down, like so you can see, they're now at the company level, trying to maintain the communication support. But that's the basic model you're seeing, and this is what's being tested out right now. For those of you who don't know, for example, there's an exercise going on right now in 29 Palms, California. The 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment, which used to be 3rd Marines for you old Hawaii vets, 3rd MLR, which actually has its own comm company, they're actually doing an exercise right now, in 29 Palms, Camp Pendleton, San Clemente, really just testing out these particular concepts. And based upon the feedback from that, we can actually determine how well our expedition communicators supported it. Again, so this comes down to really the actual, the mission we developed. Once we developed the TNR standards, once we went ahead and got the authorization from and developed the course, got the authorization for our higher headquarters training command to develop the course, we can see right here we actually created the expedition communicator course. Now you have 16 Marines. We had to keep it small. But questions were asked, is there really a demand for this? Does FMF really want this? But in less than 72 hours, when this course became available, we filled all the seats. Actually, what happened was and we still got more requests for seats. And so we basically had to go with. But you can see up there on the screen, we had a lot of Marines from from 3rd MLR. We had 5 Marines from 3rd MLR. We had Marines from Okinawa. We had Marines from Camp Pendleton. And also, you can see up there, you see a 28. You look up there, you can see a 28XX. We actually had a 2862. I'm sorry, a 2841. Come of this particular course, just to try the various aspects of communications. Well, what it is, we basically ran a 37 training day course, and that course graduated in November. Now you can see down there what our way ahead is. You can see right down here, we talk about development. We have developed the course. Now we're actually in that middle phase. You see up on the screen, we're actually developing courses. What we're doing is we run one proof of concept course, the one we just ran from October and November. We're now going for the after actions. We're actually going for the course development. We're going to run another course this fall, again, based upon those particular lessons. And the goal is, as long as we make good efforts, is to actually develop a full capability in January of next year. But again, that all depends upon resources. That's one of the challenges we have. Again, I was honest, we have no money. So, it just really comes down to that. We can buy some things, but if the vendors, if industry can help us, if anything, to test out equipment, we can do that. But again, we can't commit to buying it, but at least test out the various concepts. And that's the whole idea behind expeditionary communications. Be thinking ahead, be thinking different ways, not getting tied doing the same thing every time. But once you develop this particular course, again, then basically what ended up happening we outlined various things. But before I actually talk about the course themselves, Toby, this is Toby Pope. Toby Pope runs our MACJAV Comm Planners course at 29 Palms, California. He also Yeah, there was one person we're missing. We'd be remiss. Is there was Master Sergeant Ingersoll. He's actually was our chief course instructor for this course. He's not here because he's teaching the comm chief course, but Toby here can talk to you about the course itself.
Thank you, sir. Yep. So I wanted to take a step back for this, and I'm going to pace a little bit because I've been sitting for most of the day. I'll haze myself later, but class composition, these are corporals and sergeants. These are motivated NCOs that came through. And I want to point out the fact that when you look at, yes, MOSs, 16, yes, but look at the composition. We have composition across the entire force in the course, and all of these are slated for some kind of deployment. Whether it is a service level training exercise or it is an actual deployment, we have positions for these Marines to go out and do things. That is intentional because we're using that in our feedback cycle to refine for the next proof of concept. So whenever we had those 30 plus Marines try to come to the course, we tried to refine that and select the correct ones to best inform our next proof of concept. So from there, all these slides, they have lots of words. Again, I'll haze myself later. But for this, what I want y'all to focus on is first the phase one. The Force Design 2030, the MACTAF, Marine Littoral Regiment, etc. These are initiatives, institutional initiatives that for most of the people in this room right now, you are already tracking. That's great. But it doesn't filter down to the junior Marine, the NCO, the actual people that are executing very often. And I just want to highlight that, yes, we are supposed to inform our Marines of the why. We are supposed to inform people of the why. All too often we don't do that. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback from the students was they appreciated knowing the why. So if you 100% know for a fact that your Marines already know the why, awesome. But if you reflect and you know for a fact that that is not the case, I would ask you, when you go back to your unit, you go back to your formation, talk about that. Have an education, have a PME. Now, one thing that I've heard for ECC as kind of a detractor is I can do this with my Marines. Hey, I can take a networker, send them to some radio, sprinkle that in. Maybe they attend incidental radio operators course, advanced radio operators course, and they're going to be just as good as somebody that goes through this course. I want to highlight that that is nothing further from the case. From day one, we talk about a mentality from a denied and degraded C2 environment and how that requires us to be thinkers and doers in a different way than the past. Again, this is something that the Marines highlighted that went through the course as being something incredibly beneficial and useful for them. They walked away from the course having a completely different mindset. And you can't get that from a networker that just takes some additional radio stuff. We also did have one networker that had some additional radio background. They didn't necessarily perform as good on day one as they did when they left the course. Last thing for this, 2 parts. One, it was 37 training days. The next one is going to be 50-something. And then that'll inform the actual full POI, program of instruction. And the effects, so the phase 6 that you see there, the effects was pretty intuitively highlighted as the best part. Now, I see a lot of Marines. I will apologize. I got hungry on the way down here. I ate all the snacks, so I have no crayons. But I do have lots of pictures. Now, any communications course, got it. Top, we have comm Marines doing comm things, yes. But I actually want to call out the bottom. And I know that you see a hike and you think this is like a PR photo, but really for us, this is part of being complete communicators. And that is just a recognition that without us being able to keep up with those that we are supporting, if we can't keep up, nobody's going to use us, period. So throughout the course, we did rucks, we did hikes, we did water PT, like we swam. All of this to make the Marines better and to be a complete communicator. You may say, well, maybe I'm off in left field here, but I'll kind of highlight, I talked to some of the people that are designing IBX 30, Infantry Battalion 2030. This is the experimental infantry battalion for the Marine Corps. It's kind of a big deal. I asked them, hey, I've got this course, this ECC, what do you need from a communicator? If I was to take a Marine, give them to you right now in IBX 30 for this new infantry battalion, what are the things that you need? They said this, that, another, check, check, check. But unprompted, the second thing that he said was, I need somebody that can keep up. Because most of the time, comm cannot keep up, and we don't use them. So again, I'll just double tap on the fact that, hey, a comm course may not be typical to have that level of PT, but it's what we need to be doing. From there, I'll highlight the bottom. That is the McWIS X. During ECC, we did have Green Gear program of record equipment that we integrated into the course, and we used that. We taught the Marines. Great. I've heard that they've got some issues, but that's outside of the point. Up here, though, is what I actually want to talk about when we talk about ATAC. So for most of ground comm, the 06 field, we've been kind of Heismaning C2 applications for a while now. Like that's somebody else's job. But at the tactical edge, increasingly, a common operational picture, a COP of some variety, is incredibly important. We need to have this in our POIs, and for ECC, that was something that we began to integrate. So we had this. It's also free, just saying. For here, I kind of highlight the spectrum analyzer in the top right. Unforced sensing and awareness, that is something that is incredibly important. If you can't see what you're emitting, if you can't understand what you're emitting, you can't mitigate it, you can't hide it. And we know that we need to do that for the future fight. There's a lot of programmatic things that have to happen, but time now, we do have spectrum analyzers. So we got them exposure to Spectrum Guard Pro, got them exposure to how this looks on a spectrum analyzer. If you are an industry participant today and you have some kind of a solution, that is definitely something that we'd be more than happy to talk to you about after this. But the bottom, kind of the same thing, Chimeta, we did use commercial solutions. So a commercial beamforming antenna, it's used quite extensively in the fleet time now. Not necessarily a program of record time now, but we did use multiple COT solutions and try to leverage those throughout the course. So you didn't just have the green gear. You also had commercial solutions that the fleet is using. For the FEX, just want to highlight for all four of these, you had a mobile C2 platform event, a standard COC, which is a little bit more the typical variety. Bottom right is an urban C2 setup. And then we also had an austere environment where the Marines had to ruck into their place. They had to have everything in their pack, on their back. And they had to think of, okay, what am I putting in my pack first? Is it the radio, is it the antenna? And I will not tell you how many times that somebody forgot something. But it was definitely more than once. So these events simulate a lot of the expected stuff in our future proof of concept and later. We're also looking at what we're calling talk in a box, which is kind of a commercial or wireless COC inside a small package, MPK, yes, but more like a little bit cheaper, I'll say that. Additionally, we're just going to make this more. So on the first day, we're going to have a baselining event that simulates a lot of this. And then at the last, we'll also have more of effects. Between those two, everything that you learned, we'll be able to have more data to say, hey, no joke, this is us providing the insight into the Marines. So some takeaways. The proof of concept was a success. Marines found a lot of value. The fleet is interested. All the stuff that we identified before the course, though, was a bit of an issue. So it was taken out of HIDE. It was completely with no structure, a zero-sum game. So we knew that that was going to cause some issues. Those happened. It's pretty typical. But we do have the metrics for the next stage. Some sustains and improves with that. The general course structure worked. While we're looking at lengthening certain elements, shortening some, and getting the right mix down, the overall course structure with the different phases, that worked. So that piece was good. The complete communicator, as I said, there is fleet buy-in, especially from those that we support, on us being physically fit. We're going to sustain that. For the improves, I already talked about the baseline, Morphex and PracApp, but these bottom four. So after hours instruction, quizzes, tests, and other resources that are available for the students. And I wasn't quite pulling teeth, but I actually got out of the students in the after action feedback. I'm like, hey, could y'all have done more? They're like, sir, yeah, we could have done more. So they're admitting that they wanted more. They were hungry. Networking labs was a big part of it, especially for the radio Marines, getting inside the command line interface. That's not something that they're used to doing. So they wanted more reps and sets in doing that. Additionally, the FIRES ISR tactical data link integration, I want to say the extent TBD. I had somebody of a separate MOS. I'm not saying they threatened to stab me, but they pretty closely did that. They did not like that we had FIRES up here. What I'm talking about, just to be clear, FIRES, ISR, and tactical data links are something that the Marines at the Tactical Edge are being forced to integrate. Like, that's just period. We are being forced to integrate this. Saying that somebody else's responsibility to teach it, that's really, it's kind of lame. So we need to integrate this. We need to have in our 06 curriculum something that either goes into the information exchange requirements in a more familiar level and actually gets better understanding of what we're trying to move across the battle space. Now, is that a bunch of definitions? Is that something more for familiarization's sake for FATIDs or some of the other FIRES applications? That part, that extent, to be determined. But it's something we're looking at doing because, again, in the fleet, we're getting our faces punched because our Marines are not able to do this. So what's next? The yellow call box at the bottom left, I just kind of highlight. We talked about this longer, proof of concept. So we're looking from 30 days to about 50-something days for this second one. We have more curriculum that is being developed that's targeted toward this. And we're looking to see, okay, what are some of the questions we want answered with this to inform the final pilot and actual production. Up next, for the fleet Marines that are actually in their exercises time now, Mr. Stokes mentioned that we have some with MLR, TE, et cetera. Those Marines, we're going to be interviewing them, their supervisors, and their OICs to see, okay, hey, did we meet the mark? Did we actually get the stuff into the course that we need to? What gaps do we have? And then go from there. Again, that will inform the final pilot, or the pilot, and then production in 2024. With that, we'll switch over to questions from the crowd.
We're the comm guys. We should use the comms, you know? Yeah. Hey, Paul and Toby. Good to see you guys. Major Dom Cheverati from ESG3. A lot of really good initial feedback on this course. I think you guys, as a prior MUCOMO, I see a lot of systems on there I wish I would have had more guys that had familiarity with. Seems like a lot of the initial audience was MLR Marines. Do you see that changing, or who do you see as your anticipated audience moving forward? And does that include BLTs potentially?
Short answer, yes. MLR, just because of who they are right now, they will have a seat for the next couple of cycles, but we're still looking at MUs, we're still looking at general flyaway teams. We're looking at those types of individuals as having priority, but we're looking to spread that out across the force as well.
Okay. I just say, and also you may want to make the course get more seats too. Right now, there's only 16 because we just started this out. I mean, we actually did an estimate at one time of approximately 30 to 35 seats, in the future course. And also the other issue too comes down is, will this be MOS producing? That's still up in the air. I mean, it's still under discussion. So I think at the end of the day is the capability still needs to be there, because once Marines graduate from this, we have to track those skills somehow. But that's a debate for a different day.
Right.
But like I said, we're looking for to expand as much as we can, and it just comes back down to resources.
Yep. Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Major Cologne, Expeditionary Warfare Training Group Pacific. Good to see you. Great brief. When you talked about the TNR standards, did you guys collate TNR standards that were already out there, or did you create new TNR standards for inclusion in a future TNR review?
Actually, it was a combination. What we did is we we took skill sets that we've laid out in a number of venues. But then the TNR conference we had back in June, there was a group of us. It was myself, it was a group from Access, the FMF, Headquarters Marine Corps, and literally we went ahead and we brainstormed and basically created a 3,000 level event, which is primary unit level, and a 2,000 level event, for collective skills. And actually, we based on experience, and now two of those standards will make it a new TNR manual, which will be published here in hopefully the next 60 days. We have a third TNR standard, which has been shelved for the next TNR event. But those standards are available. We can talk offline, and I can give those to you. Sure. Any more questions? Again, actually, before we close, I would like to also let you know that there's also, we talk about not only just, like I said, Marine, there are also, we have some external agencies have asked about this course. The Center of Naval Analysis is actually doing a study right now on the expeditionary communicator and look at this particular concept. So there are, we've had experience from that. MARSOC has also been very helpful helping us with this. And generally what we've been getting, and also some MCTISA, like I said, the ESGs, EWTGs, we've been getting a lot of good positive feedback. But again, we've just started, so it'll probably take I would say it'll probably take a couple of a few years to just actually evolve, and hopefully get actually additional resources. But we really do appreciate your time and effort to kind of taking the time to listen to us. I really want to thank my compadre here, Toby. He's really did a good job for us. And do you have any other additional questions, sir? My oh.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing? Sorry. Okay. What's your focus on getting your expeditionary communicators to leverage the MCSEN? And what can we do from the Network Battalion or the MCOG to help expedite that process?
Well, I would.
So for ECCA, as far as the network, network agnostic, so anything that we could reach back to and pull the services that we need to. For this, we actually tied into, for MCSAS, the warrant officer course, they have effects, and use basically config files that we modified for that and tied into it. For the future, whether it's IMFDM, TIE, MCSEN, it's really just, okay, hey, who can we pull to, and then kind of go from there. Anything you'd add to that?
The thing I would add is what we need is something just like the SOC community where it's seamless. It doesn't matter where we go. So, I mean, if I have that team, if that team deploys to Southeast Asia, TIE and MCSEN, it's the same configuration in Southeast Asia. If I'm going to the tactical entry point in Okinawa, and if I go to a tactical entry point, let's say in CONUS, it's the same configuration. It's seamless. So that way, that Marine, all he has to do is, because right now, that's the advantage we have right now, with the SOC network. It's seamless from point A to point B. That's what we really need, I would say.
Yeah, Paul, very, very familiar with the SOC network. Spent there. Good case study is the 112 Signal Battalion. That right there, they have a really deliberate process, and at the group at the group level and team level, they've got these TTPs that are already down. So we'd like to partner with you. And I've been deliberately sent here to establish that partnership this week.
Well, that'd be helpful. Because I think that's what we'd like to see. It would help us in the schoolhouse because when you teach the same configurations, granted they'll change over years, but if we can give people that core knowledge instead of the balkanized network we have today.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Rob Major.
All right, thank you very much. How about a round of applause for these gentlemen, Paul and Toby? Thank your commanding officer, Colonel Broom, and Sergeant Major Cuthbertson for being here and supporting. It's great to have the leadership out here, and thanks for kicking off a great West with the first briefing in the Marine Corps Theater today. All right, thank you. Next session, I think, is at 10:50 in here.